right. Well, so welcome everyone to the SMART Table Virtual User Group, the November session. We're glad that you're giving up a little bit of your afternoon to join us today. Today, and we're really excited because we have a couple of really great presenters that are going to share some really neat tips and tricks and best practices, so I'm excited about that and excited that you're joining us. So just a quick recap of our agenda that we're going to be covering. So today, as always, we're going to do our quick introductions, just talk about the purpose of the webinar, and people, just sometimes still get the question of what are these webinars? So just a recap of that. Remind you of the support documents. The first part is I'm going to clip through it quickly because I want to get to our great presenters. There is a new update, and I want to update you on Symphony and Scrapbook, just to make sure that you're aware of a couple of new things. And then we have two great presenters, Tellier and Brandy Magdos. They're both joining us, and excited for what they're going to share today. And then talk about our resources and our next sessions. We're not going to have a session in December because I don't know about you, but I'm not sure that you want to spend your winter holidays with us, and so we're going to give you a little break. And hopefully, if you incline, you might want to practice out some of these things that we've been sharing, so that would be a good time to do that. I also want to remind everyone, I have been getting questions about, where do I find the registration? I haven't been as diligent as I'd like to posting it on my website, but if you note this and bookmark this and share this info.smarttech.com, Smart Table VUG. So let me go here. This is that website. This is the most current information that we will have. So if you bookmark that, you'll always have that. The registration information will always be there. You can forward this out. And then also we've started posting our information, as I'll talk about, to the Smart Learning space, and there's some detailed information here. So just a really fast and easy way to know where that registration is, and it's always updated, or quickly after our webinar, it'll have the new information there. So wanted you to be aware of that. Let me go back here. And who am I and who is my colleague? Well, I'm Heather Lamb. I am the education consultant from Texas and been doing these webinars, these table webinars, for quite some time. And then I have Tara Mattingly joining me. Tara's kind of running the back end and going to be answering questions, and if you have any, please utilize that. Last month, and I think maybe the month before, we tried to use a back channel, but I think that was a little kind of like overload of information. So we're not going to use the back channel this month, and we're just going to kind of compare and see what kind of questions you have, and then re-decide if we want to go back to that. But I think for the purposes of this webinar, if you'll use the question box, which I'll talk about for those questions, please ask us. We can only, I envision what questions you might have, but please don't hold back when you have questions that we can answer those so that we can answer those for you. All right, so Tara is running the back end, and we've both got our information. We're both on Twitter if you want to follow us. I also wanted to remind everyone that I do post starting in October, I started posting the resources in the Learning Network, but also you can go to our YouTube channel, the Smart Table Friend YouTube channel, and see all the back sessions if you're really interested in going back further to see as the progression of the software and the toolkit and the table software has changed. So you can always go there and subscribe and see what that's all about. And that leads kind of why we do this is, we're only as good as you guys are, basically. So we want to collectively, sometimes we do make it and take it the last 2 months. I did facilitate a make it and take it kind of environment, and if you are interested and you watch the webinars and you missed those resources, let me know, and you can email us. I'll have our a different email at the back end. If you want to email, we can share those resources with you. But we also want to build skills and techniques so that we can build with the toolkit. As you're going to see today with our two presenters, these ladies have started building, and I think you're going to find their information really valuable. You can download things from the Smart Exchange, which are fantastic, but sometimes as a teacher, as a former teacher, I wanted to customize and make things meet the needs of, if I'm Common Core or if I've got my standards, I want to adjust those files, and so that's the benefit of learning more about the toolkit. We want to share best practices and then also network with other table users. So just, finding out those best practices and learning from others. So how can you participate? Since we're not going to run that back channel, go ahead and if you see your little panel it should be on the right-hand side of your screen unless you've moved it over. There is a little orange box where you can collapse and expand your box. We'd love it if you wanted to raise your hand. We don't have much luck with that, but if you did want to ask a question, you can raise your hand and we'll unmute you. It works best if you have a headphone and that has a microphone on it, but if not, sometimes the computers will work just fine. But if you accidentally raise your hand, you can put it back down, so you don't have to wait for us. But if we see that you have a question, we'll ask you if you wanted to raise your hand, and if not, you can put it back down, as I said. There is a question panel box, so go ahead and if you see that, you can ask us those questions. If you need clarification on something, please use that question panel box so that we can definitely answer your questions or comments, or if you need more help, let us know through that box. So, and we've already got some people that Avril has joined us, and she just said, hi, how are you? So saying that really, really quickly, if you can go ahead, we like to introduce people and see who's around. So I can see who is there, but if you want to, well, let's try that question box really fast and go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'll try to introduce you to the audience so you can poke your head in there by typing in the question box and tell us who you are and where you're joining us from. So try that out and see. We've got Mike from Los Angeles. Awesome. Anybody else out there? Oh, I've got Jeff from Texas. So unfortunately, this is, I don't know, sometimes I like GoToWebinar. Sometimes I wish everybody else could see who you are, so I'm just telling. So no, so that's you shouldn't be able to see. If we go back to today's meet, you'll be able to see that. So maybe that's a question later on I'll ask everybody. If you like the today's meet, we'll go back to that. But no, with this, you won't be able to see everyone's out there. So Karen, I can tell you that you're out there. Jennifer's from Indiana. I guess that's Owatonna, Tana. So that's Karen. So Scott is here. So we're glad that you're joining us really fast. Brandy's here from Texas. So we've got our Texas contingent. And Tara's from Maryland. And Linda is visiting her son out of state, I think. All right, very cool. So keep introducing. I'll chime back in, but use that question box, please, so that we can answer those questions. All right, so let's keep going on with this. I just wanted to remind you, sometimes the support documents are limited, but I really wanted to remind everyone about the support documents that are available because they really are in depth, and I've said this multiple times. So basically, to find those resources, that if you go to smarttech.com, slowly, and go to the table resources. If I go to the software downloads, this is really the easiest place to find these. If I come down to the table, so I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to go to the table, and if I go to the Smart Table software version 3.1, this is where I can find that resource here. So you'll have support documents and you have product downloads. So if I go to support documents, I'll be able to, here is our here is our how-to articles, the product guides. This is really what you want right here, this user's guide under product documents. So that's, I love this, and I really, if I could encourage you to download one document that will help you into better understanding the table and the toolkit, this would be the document. I feel very strongly. This is really, it's got some great graphics in it. It really does a good job of explaining. And then that's also, so don't forget that the software 3.1 is what we're going to be talking about. That goes on your table, and it's a quick update. So if you have to, if you don't have the internet, you can actually download it and put it on a USB and update your table. Or if your table is connected, either the 230i, so either one of these tables, you can, so I could use either this, I've tried it on both of these tables and they work great. If you get to the table, if you do have internet access on the 230i, you can update and check for updates and it will go through the process. I did that the other day with someone, and if the 230i, if you connect it to the internet, you can update it through this check for updates, or like I said, you can go to that download page, download it, put it on a USB, plug it in, and it should say, hey, there looks like an update, and it takes you through the processes. So those are that the piece that you want to remember on that. So, all right, and then let me keep going. You can also tell if you don't know which version of your table software, you can go to the teacher mode and click on the little green teacher, or the little table icon right here, and you can check to see which version you're running. So that's how you can check if you need to update. As far as the toolkit is version 2.6, and as far as any updates on that, I'm not privy to any of that information. So the version 2.6 is the current version. I went out on the web and it's version 2.6.1144. So if I go back out here and I go back to the table software, let's just make sure. Let's see, so I'm going to go back to the same place. I'm just backing out, and if I'm running a Windows or a Mac, see it's still version 2.6 for Windows and 2.6 for Mac, and it is version 2.6.1144.0. So that's where we're at with the toolkit. The toolkit is what goes onto your computer. Don't forget that. All right. So let's just kind of dive in for a second before we switch over to our panelists. So there's a couple of things I would recommend. I'm not going to go deep into this. I would recommend watching last month, actually the last probably 2 months, and then maybe even the third month as far as what you can do, how to use this. I really went into it pretty heavy last month of how to use the table software a little deeper, but so I would highly encourage that. I didn't want to take the time today to go into that as much. Remember that you can choose activities and applications from that middle choose activity or application. It's a choose activity button in the center. So that's that button. If I stretch this out, this is the teacher's toolkit. Let me change the order of that so you can see. So this is the teacher mode. So this is where I can choose activities. So this is where I can choose activities or applications. There are some applications that are like they're independent. They run on their own. You don't have to do anything. You can just download them, use them right on the table. There are other applications that you can customize. So today we're going to talk a little more about that. So what I really wanted to tell you is that with Symphony and Scrapbook, this is what I wanted to focus on. So if you go back into the prior months, I talk more about, this is the table content, what's currently on your table. This is if you have something that you download from the Smart Exchange and put it on a USB, and this is if your table is connected to the Smart Exchange, how you can download straight from the Smart Exchange. So this is, and you can tell which are applications and which are activities. So the ones that it'll say, like this one says grouping app. So that's how you know if it's an application. And then we have the clipboard. The purpose of the clipboard is really to create little folders. So if you wanted to manage who in your groups get to work with what applications or activities. So that's how the clipboard works. But talking about Symphony and Scrapbook, so with version 3.1, the developers added Symphony and Scrapbook to the table download. So you don't have to go back and add those. Now what that means is that those two won't run independently. So you can't just open them up, say like the grouping app, or if you've interacted with Marquita, or there's this object sort. Those can run independently. So now the way that you'll need to interact with these two applications, so Symphony and Scrapbook, specifically I'm talking about those two applications. The way you'll need to run those, or the easiest way, is there is a new example content pack. So let me go to the Smart Exchange and show you right here. I'm in the Smart Exchange, and if I type example, so I can do example, and I'm going to scroll down to Smart Table Activity Packs. So I typed example. I might want to type example content, but I found it. So notice that we have example content here. We have example content here. And we have example content 3.1. I know this says HD beside it, but right now this is the one we have. So if you've updated your table software and you want to interact with Symphony and with Scrapbook, if you download this activity pack, you'll be able to interact with it. What it looks like when you download it is this. So this is an activity pack, and you'll notice that right here, this is Symphony, and this is Scrapbook. So if you wanted to, I'm going to talk just a quick, I'm going to talk how do you get those. If you wanted to make your own activity pack, I'm going to talk real quickly on that. So that's how you can download, search Smart Exchange for example content 3.1, and then you can actually interact with those. So basically those won't run independently. You'll need to either use this example content or create your own activity pack, and I'll talk about that really quickly. I did have a question that I wanted to answer. So someone asked about calibrating. So to calibrate, remember that you can get to the teacher mode by plugging in a USB or by, I call it the 5-finger press. So go back to those last webinars to see that. But when you plug in the USB, you get to the teacher mode, and this is your calibrate button. So the calibrating is different on the 442 and the 230i. The 230i has like the orienting. If you have a smart board, it has little buttons, the little buttons that you'll need to press, and the little green, let me get green, it'll circle around, so you'll get a little green circle right here. You go all the way around those, and then you have to press the arrows in. So that's if you have a 230i. If you have a 442, the new table, you're going to get these little green, let me erase this part. So you're going to get these little white circles. I think they're white. I have to remember. So you're going to get, well, you're going to get like these square rectangles across here. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your finger and you're going to color in, and then you're going to go, and it'll turn green. So you're going to do this. And this is explained in that user's guide. So if this is for a 442, the new table, so notice in each one of these little boxes will turn completely solid green when you have calibrated. And what you're doing is calibrating the cameras, because it uses a little bit different technology. There's 20 cameras around the perimeter of the 442. So you color with your finger until it turns solid green. And then you get the little orient buttons that you'll go down. So it's 2 steps. They're each are 2 steps, but it depends on which kind of table you have. I hope whoever asked that question, that helped you. But it should turn solid green, and I wouldn't skip, think it matters, but I would just go in order. Like I wouldn't skip down to this box and then this box. I would just go, and you just have to keep going and circling until it turns green. And as I said, it tells how to do that in the user's guide. So look for that. You can either, if you need the 230i guide, look for that. They're both there, depending on which kind of table you have. So I hope that answered the question about calibrating. So Symphony is that musical instrument application, and Scrapbook is the way to build your own scrapbook, build your own digital kind of archive of your content. So with Symphony, you're able to, when you download the app or have that as part of your activity pack, you can interact with these and you can save them, you can change the metronome, you can actually you can save. So if you were to plug in a USB, it'll pop up and it'll ask you where do you want to save it. And you see the little folder here. So if you see the folder, you can tell it to save it to that USB. You wouldn't save it to the table, you're going to save it to a USB. So save it to a USB, and this becomes a MIDI file. So that's a file that means something to music teachers, and then you can actually play that if you have the right, I think you have to have the right program, but you could play that and see what your students created with that. So kind of cool. You can have, there's the drums, there's the xylophone, you can see handbells, marimbas, something else, I can't read that, metrolophone. So fun instruments. The kids can see, they can play it back and see what they've created, so very nice. Scrapbook allows you to create a scrapbook, and my picture is not up to date, but now where this says new, open, and save, there is the capability of saving, but it will save, I think this, and I had to get the right picture and I didn't, I apologize. I think what will happen is when you save it, I don't think it says export. When it saves, it's going to give you the option, and you need to do this with the USB again, and it'll say, where do you want to save it? And it's going to ask you, you can save it to your USB. It'll say whichever drive you have it into, and then it's going to save it as a PDF. So you can show your students' works, and that's only with version 3.1. So hopefully that, I hope to in January have some better pictures, but I would encourage you to try this out. But remember that you'll need to have those applications. So really, really quick, because I want to get to my two presenters, don't forget about how you add those applications. So if I open up my toolkit, you'll notice that I have applications in my listing here. So I have, I go down Scrapbook, and I have Symphony added. So what I did is I went out to the Smart Exchange. So if I go out here and I go to, and I type in here, Symphony, and I search, there it is right here. So I'm going to download it, and I'm going to save it. And when it saves, you are going to get a little icon in your downloads that looks like that. So what you'll do to get that is I'll save it, and then I'll double click on that with the toolkit closed. I'll double click on it. It'll open up your toolkit, and it adds those applications to your list. So basically I download it. That application is the same thing that you would use for the table. That's how we used to download things and add them to the table. Now you just double click, and it will add these third party or these applications to my listing here. Then if I wanted to build, I could have my own activity pack with exactly what I want my students to do. So hopefully that helped you, and to better understand some of the features and functionality, of the toolkit, what I want you to start thinking about, I'm not going to break right this second. I'm going to go right into our panelists, but I wanted to remind myself is as I build these, and Tara and I brainstorm and say, what should we include, what should we add to our agenda, we try to look back at past sessions. So what I need from you before you close out today, or if you're not joining us live, what I need from you is to, in that question panel, what do you need? What do you need more help with? Do you need more help with backgrounds? Do you need more help with applications? Do you need more help with understanding one piece of the toolkit? What do you need more help with? So what I want you to do, and I know a lot of you told me that you haven't created, so so I really want you to tell us what you need. And I know some of you, like I said, haven't created, but think about what would help you to get you started. All right. So if you need, do you need to know where all those resources are? Those resources are under the support tab under, and this is a little different. It's the table resources. The easiest place is under the software downloads page. And if I go, then it'll have the user's guide there. So, hopefully that helps you to know more. So if I go to 3.1, let's see, and then support documents there. So if you needed more help with that, hopefully I helped you find that today. So I need that from you to help for the next session. But I want to quickly get into our presenters. So we've got two. We have Ann Tellier. As I said, she's a retired teacher. She retired after 25 years, and she had a SMART table and using them for 4 years. And then we have Brandy Magdos. So I am going to change the presenter to Ann. Let's see. All right. Ann, oh, there you are. Oh, let me unmute. Hold on just a second. Oh, there you are unmuted.
Great, hi.
Great, we can hear you perfect also.
Awesome. Well, hello everybody from Canada.
All right, thanks, Ann.
As you see, I've sort of started to celebrate winter here. It's gotten very cold, and I thought I would just sort of show you a rebuild of a SMART table lesson that I did in my classroom. And I really like the SMART table, and one thing I think teachers are very creative and like to be creative, and I think the fun that I've had is creating my own lessons. Just as when I first started with a SMART notebook or SMART board and starting creating lessons in Notebook, what I like to do is kind of get more bang for my buck, and so I try to create lessons on the SMART board, but that I can use a lot of the resources that I've developed in those lessons and use them on my SMART table kind of as a backup. So one theme that we do a lot of in Canada, of course, is winter, and usually I've been doing this in January. As I said, I just retired the end of last year, so I have a lot of my files. My SMART table is in my old classroom, but my new colleague who took my place is using it, and I'm trying to kind of mentor her along with it. So I still like to create lessons and join in on the webinars to learn more. What I did here was I started in Notebook, and I know Heather went over kind of the basics the last webinar, and I have to say one of the webinars I attended where she introduced the Notebook and using Notebook, that was my aha moment for how I could orient the table so that all the users could use it. So as you see, I had to put winter on one side, and l'hiver is winter in French. So we try to make I taught in a bilingual school, so there's French and English there. I know in the States you probably have Spanish and English as well. So what I did was I started in my notebook file. This was my winter notebook file, and I just put that picture on there. Oh, it's that one. And added in l'hiver and winter, and then took a screenshot of it And one thing that I found really key is having everything as organized as possible. So I hope you can see this. But just if I move things over, on my desktop, I put files of all the images I had so that I can really get at them easily. And key point too is to name the photos correctly or the images correctly. As well, you know, one issue when you're searching for images is always to consider the rights and copyright. So what I've always done is, or tried to do is, when I do a search, is to do an advanced search and look for images that I'm allowed to modify. Also, sometimes is take your own pictures. Those are great to use. And using pictures of the kids themselves, your class, is always fun as well. So this one was just the beginning welcoming page, and I've just used really the basic hot spaces, paint, multiple choice, media, and hotspots. And I don't think I really have to cover the basics, but you know, I imported that background image, that screenshot. And then I went into one of the first ones I did was hot spaces. And again, I created this background in my notebook file. What I haven't done yet is recreate that hot space for toboggan. So I'm going to do that. So now I've got 4 hot spaces, and I have images. So I have Inukshuk's. Oops, don't do that. I have Inukshuk's. That's one thing you always have to make sure you go back and click that select button. And now I've gotten pictures of Inukshuk's. I've got pictures of the clothing, and I'm going to have some. I have pictures of tobogganing, and I have some igloo pictures that I'm also going to import. And for those, I'm going to go to my file, and I have igloos, and I have select 3 igloo pictures, and I'm going to bring them in. They of course ask you if you want to crop them. I think they're all okay. One is from Notebook, and these are some other images from the internet. Another really important thing that Heather pointed out last time was always looking at your ending and your starting positions. So if I'm going to put them all in the right place for the end, that's really important. So I'm going to select those, put them. I also like to put them so that I'm not covering the word, so that I can see which one what I'm doing. Although I've covered that igloo and Inukshuk's. Toboggan, toboggan, toboggan. And there I've got that little thing and that I have to take out. So that's my ending position, and now to make sure I save it. We all know saving's really important. And I have to say, I am not a techie person. I'm an older teacher, of course. I was an older teacher when I got my smart board and my smart table. But I really like the creative aspect, and I've learned along the way. And I've had to learn in 2 platforms, PC and Mac, because I really am a Mac. If I click the start positions, of course, they're all spread over the place. I do kind of like to put them in the middle so the kids can all reach in and grab them, and then they're going to move them out. So that's what I'll do there. And then, of course, save it again and save. And then you can preview it, of course, as Heather pointed out, by going down there to preview. If I go back to my home, I just want to show you another one that I had fun with. I used the media for this. And I do a lot of the Inuit as well, talking about winter. And what I did was I created basically stones in my notebook file. And I had this as a page on my notebook file. Let me go way down. So the kids could, on the smart board, build their own Inukshuks so that they would move them. And of course, an Inukshuk looks like a human being, so they could build their man there. But what I did was I took all of those pictures and I imported them into the SMART table, and I put them in the media. So, and I put the background is white. So if I go to preview, oops, sorry, preview, the kids can manipulate the stones around and build their Inukshuk. It's a little harder to do with a cursor, but they can basically build their Inukshuk, and they can build it any way they want. So that was my using media instead of just for the pictures or movies. Hotspots, again, I took a picture, and I would just create labels. And so this was a kayak, and I would put it there, start position over there, save it, end position, oops, end position, and save it. And I would put in the label for the man, for the paddle, and for the harpoon as well. And put the names over here as to the different activities. When I'm doing paint, I often just like to bring in pictures that the kids can color, or even pictures that I have. I'm going to go in here. This was even this was an activity paper that the kids did. It was circling things that start with S. And so I can bring those in as well. I don't know if that's going to come out as well. Again, going into paint. Sometimes they just like to draw on black, so I often have a black or just a plain color. So I save some pictures of just black or blue or green. And I'm going to select actually those, and a dot to dot. And I also have hangman. They love to play hangman. And so they can create their own hangman. Or I can as well. This was a dot to dot that I would, of course you have to crop it. This was just a simple coloring that they like to do. And that's one thing. Here's the black. Working with kids around the SMART table, you do have to have your rules. And I found, I sort of tell them sometimes that it confuses the SMART table if they all color like in a frenzy. So I try to really get them so that they, we practice our SMART table behaviors and taking turns. And even, you know, when you want to move on, sometimes there's one child who kind of wants to take control and move on, and the others aren't really ready to. And so I have them all say, if one child says, I want to move on to another page, I say, well, everybody has to agree, and they each one have to say, I agree, and then they press their either the X or the symbol for moving on to another activity. And I don't know, Heather, if you want me to keep going or if we're good to go there.
I think, so that Brandy has a little bit of time, I think that what you shared is fantastic, and what really good ideas. Some people had noted they wanted to know about backgrounds, so you touched on it, and I had already sort of kind of thought I probably would touch on backgrounds a little more next month, so that was a great segue. Would you mind sharing your table activity pack with us that we can post out onto the when we post the resources? Would that be okay?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I was looking at the questions. I think we're good. We'll keep watching the questions, but I think that we're going to move on to Brandy just for time. But I think what your stuff was fantastic and great start. So you started really just slowly and just started playing with it, right? And
that's right. I did go to the exchange, but I found a lot of the exchange, at least very early. This is like 4 or 5 years ago. they were very broad. Like they'd have 1 or 2 pages for kindergarten and then something for grade 3. It didn't really fit all the needs of my kids. So
Right.
either I do tend to work in themes, or seasonal themes. So it just made sense to kind of start making my own. And then once you've made them, you've got them forever, and then you can kind of tweak them from year to year.
Perfect, perfect. No, I think that was I think actually that's a great segue into Brandy, because she is going to validate a lot of what you just said. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch over to Brandy. And if we do have any questions, Ann, I'll definitely let Brandy chime in, or you chime in. So I'm going to go ahead and go back and mute you back. So, all right, that was great. Thank you so much. All right, Brandy, are you there?
I'm there. Can you hear me?
We can. All right.
Awesome.
That was a great segue, huh?
Yes, perfect. I, like Ann as well, would start with notebook files, because if you've already made them, you can use what you already have. And then once they started posting table lessons on, obviously that's the next place to go to find some ideas. So at the beginning, I found when I would download some that my kids would play them and they were like, wait, that's it? There's no more to do? And so I learned that I needed to expand upon them because they weren't long enough for my kids. They wanted to do it a little bit longer and practice. So I just downloaded this multiplication one, and I'm just going to show you what I would do to change it to adapt it to what my kids would need. So when I look at the Addition Plus, they have that as one of the features. They have the repeated addition here, and that is what multiplication is, and we would teach our kids that. But I would rather go ahead and make this strict multiplication. So I would come up here and just go ahead and change this and put 5 times 4. So my answer is the same. They're still using the blocks. All I'm doing is changing that really quickly to satisfy that need. So this is 2 times 6, and I could go in here and do the same thing. And that way I know my kids are just strictly looking at that multiplication end of it. And I could practice the numbers that I think they would need. So I know like the 6s tend to be challenging for the kids and things like that. So I would do some of that. And then of course, like I said, 5, my kids would go, wait, I'm not done. I like moving the manipulatives onto the square. So I might come in here and add some more, and I could come up with my own. I can also choose to do pictures as well. So I usually add about 10 to 15 on here is what I found my kids as first graders liked to have. So I would always add more to what was already there, but at least it already got me started and there was already some ideas so I could see what was there. And then
Brandy, really fast, so remind me and maybe remind everyone if they haven't done Addition Plus. Addition Plus allows for, can you do a real quick preview of that? Just in case we have some new, so Addition Plus allows for you to choose if you want tokens, which I think you chose tokens, right?
there was little blocks, the base 10 blocks.
Okay.
And so obviously I would need to change the direction there as well, but it would say 5 times 4, so the kids can work together to bring out the answer of 20, and they could do it however they wanted to. So if one kid was pulling 5s and one kid was pulling 10s, they could pull those off and put a 10 on there. But they would pull blocks up to equal the answer of whatever the question was.
And notice how it has 50 and 100 and stuff, and those really aren't pertinent. So if when Brandy goes back, you can see that you can actually customize that too. So you didn't start like you could uncheck those 50 and 100s, right?
Right, but with like if I was doing 3rd or 4th grade, if I wanted to do 12 times 12, I might want the 100 on there.
Yep.
So it would depend, or if I wanted them to really not use the 100 and figure out how to make 100, I could eliminate their options as well.
Perfect. Okay.
Down here on the directions where it says the repeated addition, I have a file. I started doing the sounds and recording them because I found that some of the sound choices or the directions I wanted to give were pretty much the same. So I made a notebook file that had all the questions or statements, I would say, And then I just recorded them with my headset. And then whenever I needed to, let's say, write the times and add hands on the clock, that's number 9. So I would come down here and on my file, I would add the audio. And I'm going to import it because I already have it made. And I'm going to go to my file that has all my sounds on it. And I just found this the easiest way to do it because I would have so many that were very similar. And then I'd add number 9, and then boom, that would and I would just copy that sentence right from here. So I didn't even have to type it every time. And I would put my direction in here. And then it would be done. And then I would have my audios for each of my ones because, like I said, I tend to find that some of the directions are very similar to what I was working on. So I just decided to start saving them all instead of repeating it every time. For the hot spots, I liked this where it had the sets and stuff because we start to teach the kids in 2nd grade at our school the arrays and how to respond to those. So to find those matching ones like she showed and did. And then obviously we like the repetition of learning the facts as they are. But I also found online some pictures, and it was already, let's see, I put them on the desktop. It was already a background like this, so you could have them, match an entire picture if you wanted to. I've had that, like what are all the different ones, and show them some actual real-life examples of what multiplication in the real world looks like. So you could throw those on your background and have them do different facts on like every apple, or things like that. Or import the picture itself in a background, and I like to do my backgrounds in PowerPoint. I don't know why, I guess because I was just PowerPoint friendly for a while. This one's a science one, but I put all my ideas down first on a piece of paper on what I want to create, and I'm not sure where that file is. Somewhere. Oh, here it is. But I would think about, like Ann said, I kind of think in a plan, like I wanted one for science tools, so I would write that idea here, and then what am I going to do for multiple choice, or if it would or wouldn't work, and I would come up with these ideas and write them down, and then I would go straight to my PowerPoint and create my backgrounds for it and throw them in there. So like for the apple one, I could throw the apples here and make them come with a sentence that matched that picture, and different ones like that, and just throw them in the background, and then save them as picture files and pull them back into here as I needed to use them in different ways if I was going to have more than one picture on the background. Those are quick, fast ways to do that as well. But I think that try to find some real-life pictures is good for the kids as well as the clip art. And multiple choice, I liked what they had here, so I don't think I would change it. I would have just maybe added a few more, maybe up to 15 to go along with that. These are great picture sets because they're already on the Smart Exchange. They're very fast to find within that. And the paint, I'd have to pull those up and preview them. I wasn't sure what they were on there yet because I hadn't looked at that. But that's just one way to pick up a file that's already out there and decide, look at it and go, well, what would work? How could I change it? Oh, they're already doing this. That's a great idea, but I want to do some 6s and 7s and 8s. So I might make a page of 6s, 7s, and 8s mixed together. So I'd hit every fact, but within 3 different, have this many, but on 3 different more pages. So I think sometimes just pulling up somebody's activity and seeing what they already have gives you a great idea on how to build from that. Because it kind of, sometimes we get so overwhelmed with what do I want to do and how do I want to show it with my kids that we can't think of a starting place to jump off. So looking at somebody else's and borrowing those ideas and going from there goes, oh yeah, I can do that, really helps a lot to build your own files to help with your kids. I think that's the most beneficial thing we have out there is resources within each other. And I have, let's see, I did go, and when they first came out with now it's not the newest version, I don't think, but it's probably the closest one that's out there. There is a Table Toolkit Basics, and because I had some friends asking, how do you do that? And so I made a file on how to create some of those activity packs and choosing it from scratch or modifying one that's already there. So if that's a resource that will help you, that's out there on the Smart Exchange as well. And I guess, again, with those backgrounds, like I said, That's a great segment. She just pulls in pictures, and I do too. I just find colors, and here, like here's, this one was made specifically for the spaces, so they could sort pictures, put all the pictures in the middle, sort them, science tools, not tools. Same thing. These are measuring tools, observing tools, and just kind of, again, look at that idea and go from there on different things. And here, I love to take pictures of the kids, like Ann said. They love that, so take pictures of the kids doing the experiments and throwing these up here like in media and having them pull those up and look at them and going, oh yeah, we were doing this, or we were learning how to observe, or what's an inference. Those are fabulous activities to do, to pull your kids' pictures in, to do those things. And then I would sometimes do short little clips of videos, like 20, 30 seconds of the kids during the investigation, and throw those on there as well. And the kids love those. So I think anytime, like Ann said, you have the opportunity to take pictures of your kids doing some of that, and you can fit them in with your lesson, that's a fabulous thing to do, because they really want to get on there and look at that activity as well and talk with their friends about it. And that's what it's all about, learning with their friends.
So you closed out. Can you pull your PowerPoint back up? Just
Yes.
I think what I'm going to do, I noticed a couple of questions on people, backgrounds. I am going to talk about backgrounds, but if you're antsy and you want to practice, with PowerPoint, you can do backgrounds in Notebook, but some of you may not be Notebook users, and you may be more familiar with PowerPoint. If you have a PowerPoint, in PowerPoint, sometimes people don't realize this, and Brandy, can you show real quick, if you wanted to save those as JPEGs, how would you do that?
Yes. You're going to go to File, and then Save As. And in your drop-down menu right here where it says Save As Type, you can choose your JPEG. And then you click, it's going to go to whatever folder, and I keep everything organized by the activity I'm doing it in, because then it's all together, and if I need a picture, I know where to find it again if I'm going to use it for something else. And go to Save, and then it asks you, do you just want to save your one slide that you're working on, or every slide? And of course, the first time I do every slide, but as I alter things, I would go back and, hey, I just altered this slide, just currently save this slide. So once you click every slide, and I'll show you, it makes its own folder, because I labeled it Science Tools, and these are all JPEGs now. So here's a finished one where they had to do the hot spaces, where they had labels, and they had to then take the image and match the label with the image of what tool it was.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, that's, and then, so if you don't want to use Notebook, or you're not familiar with Notebook, that's a great way. Or you can, you don't have to even use PowerPoint. If you are familiar with Paint, or you're, know a photo editing software, it just has to be that JPEG or PNG file, or it can be a gallery item from the Smart Exchange, for sure. And then Brandy mentioned videos, and videos, if you have a video, yeah, you can, those are pictures, but if you have a video,
Yeah,
let's say you take a video from on your, say you have an iPad or a tablet or something, it doesn't read .mov files, it reads WMV and AVI, so you could use a converter software to save it as one of those two formats. And some of the applications, as both Ann and Brandy have demonstrated, are there's a right answer when you go, and then media is one of those that's really about the conversation, and it really validates the learning, so that's why I like those. So there's some video files, but yeah, so it's AVI or WMV is the format. I think what I'll do probably too is I'll start to share some of those resources that we've used for a while that might help you, but I would highly encourage you to look at that, the Smart Exchange, and search for Brandy's named Brandy Magdos, and she's got some files I noticed on the Smart Exchange that she's created, as well as there's some table activity packs. Yep. So you can kind of see how she's done some things, and then also that resource that she shared. That was awesome. And then your contact information, are we okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And then Ann, I'll find out. I don't want to take, because I know you're retired. I I mean, if I was retired, I don't know how. I'm so grateful that she wanted to share. So if you want to share, I would love to get you to share, anyone that's out there listening. So please, if you know, even the smallest little thing is beneficial, I believe. All right, so I'm going to switch back because we just got a couple more minutes. So I'm going to switch back to us, to me, to us, Tara and myself. And I wanted to once again say a huge thanks to Anne and to Brandy. Brandy is, Anne's in Canada, so they've already had their Thanksgiving, but Brandy is off this week, and she took the time out to share her best practices. So I really wanted to share the thank you to her for that, and for Anne to take, it's great that she's retired and still helping. So I love that. So, Anne, if somebody does have a question, I unmuted you. If somebody has a question, would you be okay with sharing your email?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. So I think that you guys have valuable things to share. So perfect. Okay, so let me really fast just clip. We've got a couple more minutes. Cleaning the table. Cleaning is... it's not hard. The big key is alcohol-free. Don't use anything. Windex will work, but you just want to. I've come into some situations, and I guess people are afraid to clean it, and it's basically been kind of gross. So I said, let's clean our table before we do anything. So just it's okay. The tables have been safety tested. Somebody at an event that I was at actually spilled a beverage on the table and didn't say anything until I started talking about the safety testing, and then they fessed up. So they have been safety tested, and so make sure you do clean it, and if you needed to use antibacterial, but make sure whatever you do is alcohol-free. That will get your best results. Don't forget about the Smart Exchange. There's almost 2,000 activity packs. Don't start from scratch. Start from the activity packs that are there, and as Brandy shared today, and how to build and get those skills up. The applications are on the Smart Exchange, so don't forget to have that login. And that actually, don't forget about the Smart Table Friendly Users Group, but that leads me into, we've got resources, and I'll share some resources on our Educator to Educator website. So we have started a new kind of a board that is what you can do. It's called the Smart Learning Network. So I can come up here, and I'm signed in, and if I go to the training link from the Smart Exchange, let's see. So here's my Smart Exchange, and when I'm logged in, I can see that I can come up here and I can go to the board. And in the board, you will find all kinds of things. We do have Smart Notebook things, but we also have, I've started, if I come right here, and I'm going to go to, let's see, I think it's not there right now. So I'm going to find it, but I've started posting here it is, Smart Table Virtual Webinars. So I have Smart Table Friend, October 2013. So you can go back and see these webinars. They're linking to the YouTube channel. But I'll start posting some of the resources that people are sharing here as well. In the piece that we'll send out the directions, but you can always go to that info page. If I go to info, smarttech.com, Smart Table. If I come right here under Smart Table Virtual User Group, you can click here for the directions on how to join. It's a great network to develop and learn from our community. So join us and share your best practices, your resources. I once again want to share thank you to, sorry, I'm trying to read and do. Thank you to Anne and to Brandy for sharing. I've noticed a ton of questions and comments about things that they want to know, what you guys want to know. So next month, this is our last monthly webinar until January. It'll be January 27th. And guess what? I had already sort of started speculating that you might want to know. backgrounds and building. So we're going to talk about how to build backgrounds and some of the tips and tricks, and how to add. We have a great question from Jennifer about adding background items when you, the texting and things, and how to put those there. So we'll be doing that in January. So January 27th, 2014, hallelujah, will be our next session. I want to wish everyone a wonderful holiday if you are in the States, and Thanksgiving, and then have a wonderful winter holiday as well. You could join us if you have any questions. Join us on our Ed2Ed webinars where you'll learn more about Notebook. And then if you have any questions about anything that we shared today, email us at ed2ed, right here, ed2ed@smarttech.com if I need to add further clarification or if you're looking for a specific resource. So I once again thank you to Ann and Brandy for joining us, and hopefully that helped you to delve a little deeper into creating with the toolkit. If you have any questions about Symphony or Scrapbook, if that just kind of went over and you needed to understand that a little better, let me know. It's hard to sometimes explain when I'm not on the table, but hopefully that made sense to you. And with that, I am going to go ahead and say goodbye, and have a great rest of the evening.